All right, hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Brogan, and today we are back for another trading stream, chart stream. I need to change it, I need to change that text. You know what? We'll do it right now. Chart stream. We put that to the center a bit. There we go, perfect. Okay. I always say trading stream, but we don't really do trading here. We kind of just do charts, we kind of just look at the charts. And, I don't really trade, but maybe obviously in the future. I want to preface today with I'm a bit tired this afternoon. Okay, it's it's night time, it's dark outside, and I'm feeling a bit tired, so today's gonna be a bit more of a relaxed stream. Okay, I'm not gonna aim to say a lot of words today. I'm gonna aim to kind of just be a bit more relaxed today, just speak, just tell you my feelings of how the charts, or maybe not feelings, just charts. Okay, obviously then there's a bit of bias on the charts as always, but just obviously go through the charts, have a look, and then obviously we can, go through it. Everything apart from Bitcoin was pretty much, how I expected it to go. Bitcoin coming a bit higher. It looked like, from what I saw, we aimed for the weekly gap, which we inverted, which I will obviously talk about. But apart from that, we did pretty well. We were kind of talking across the board about things coming upwards. Obviously, Ethereum coming upwards to the midpoint of the breaker block to find resistance. Solana, obviously, we talked about some gaps we had in certain areas. XRP again coming upwards. So pretty much across the board, we were kind of expecting the markets to go up. Again, the last stream we had, or on last stream anyway, I should say, we were talking about basically the fact that we had a massive dump. Obviously, we had these two massive moves downwards, and then we were kind of hovering a bit. We were kind of consolidating. So the idea was, we were kind of expecting to kind of not reverse permanently, but kind of stop moving downwards for a bit, and then start to go upwards, just to see some high ends, and then actually continue to go back downwards. So that's kind of what we was expecting. And then obviously throughout the stream on, I believe it was Saturday. Obviously, I was going to stream yesterday, but I was going to record a video which overlapped on when I was going to do the stream, so it kind of got a bit stuck there, so we changed it on YouTube, so it didn't send notifications out or anything. But obviously, anyways, Saturday was when we streamed last, or when I streamed last, or when we were on stream last, and what we're talking about basically was just the idea in general of things going back upwards and things having a bit of a retracement. So pretty much across the board, that has happened, especially with Syrup. Obviously, Syrup's it came upwards to its area and then came downwards. So Syrup, XRP, Ethereum, Solana, CRO, everything we cover apart from Bitcoin has had this move upwards quite high to hit obviously what seemed to be the weekly. I was only really looking at the 4 hour and daily on stream, and I didn't look at what we have in theory come up to fill, if you will. So obviously we will be talking about that in a second, but I'm pretty happy so far. Anyway, I'm talking a lot. Let me start. I completely forgot to start timer, so let me do that. Okay, see, I said it. I'm tired today. Okay, I knew it. I would forget something. So 113.886, top end about 114 something. I can't remember the exact price, which is basically the top of the. So basically, we had the gap on the weekly. We kind of dumped, and then we had a retracement into the gap, and then as we were retracing, we formed another gap, and then we printed through it, and then we retraced back upwards, and I kind of just drew out the top end of that gap to fill it, and it looks like we've kind of filled that pretty much to the T within like a small margin. So that kind of looks like what I think was the target for Bitcoin. Obviously, we'll see if we continue. Again, the main things I've been stressing about the market's going down or not is the idea of time. Obviously, time and price, as people say. I agree with a certain movement, but I do agree with the fact that there is a time frame for it to play out until it stops being in play. So obviously, pretty much there is a air of systematicness to the chart. There was many words I had in my head to use, and I kind of mushed them together. But there's cyclical, if that's the word, actions. The markets move quite similar over and over again, And yes, and I again also I agree with the differential between what we've had so far in the markets, not just obviously of last cycle, but the cycles before, and now determining based on bigger or different parties at play, if you will, which could affect the way that Bitcoin gets sold, distributed, sold or bought. I suppose that could affect it, but I don't know if it will drastically change how the flow works. And usually, obviously, there's tweets about this. Mike's been talking about it around about October time. Things start to. I'll tell you right now, I am tired. I'm going to keep this short today. I know I've already spent 6 minutes talking, but you know, there is a time in the year when things start to go up again, and I can't ignore that. So I say these things. I'm not getting shaken out here, but you know, let me look at the chat. I see some talking actually. The first chat: do you have a copy trading? Thank you. I do not. We used to have one on Fairdesk, but we do not. I don't know if they're gone actually. They might be gone, and that was the copy trading we had. We don't have one on any of the big platforms. I haven't done copy trading in a while, unfortunately. But obviously, if there are hundreds of people coming to the channel who want copy trading, I could look into it. But no, not anymore. We used to have it, obviously, but we don't. And then obviously you've asked again. Well, you know, you could watch the stream maybe. Obviously, again, it's not risk management, as you've said, rightly so. Not financial advice. I do not urge people to trade based on what I talk about. I am wrong. I get things wrong. Okay, this is just for me to do, and people, you guys, we can talk about it. It's more of a catalyst for conversation. You know, we come onto here, and you know, it's not a scenario where I sit here and go, guys, what do you think is going to happen here? And I'm just spending an hour asking you guys. I give you what I can try and add to it, but obviously, if people have opinions and whatnot, or people want to talk about it, this is kind of what is good about a live stream, is that you can actually talk to people on the other end of the computer monitor, on the other end of the stream, if you will, the outflow of the stream. So yeah, but so you can watch it, and maybe if you're watching me talk about Bitcoin, you go, you know what, I think he's right. You can do what you want with that information. So yeah. One day market pump, but still confused stage up or down. Yeah, I mean, again, people say this like, oh yeah, Monday can go up one way and the rest of the week can be spent recovering the move on Monday. And I think there's an air of that. I do agree with that. I think there's an air of that. But obviously we'll get into it in a second. Danny's here, evening to you. BB, is that who I think it is? That may be who I think it is. Good evening to you as well. If that is who I think it is, we have something to talk about later on. You know, after Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, we will cover. You know who you are. Kishan's here. Obviously, I cannot ignore Kishan, the absolute GOAT. Shout out to you, and KB's here as well. Evening to you. Evening to you all. Thank you all for joining the stream. As I said in the intro, obviously, we changed the stream. The stream times got messed up. It was like 7, because Mike normally sets the streams up just to like manage it in a singular place. So it got set at like 7 p.m. Baxton, which is fine. So the notifications got sent. It didn't send the notifications out properly, or I think they sent it out earlier, and now I'm not going to send it out. So, you know, I said it in the intro. Nobody was here. There's nobody on Square. The stream hasn't been put live on Square. I'm streaming, so there's no Square. We can burn Square off. So it's literally you guys, and no one was in the chat. So I was speaking to myself for the first 5 minutes, and what I was saying was, I'm a bit tired this evening. I feel a bit tired, so you know, I'll be going a bit slower. I might not say as many words. I doubt that, though. We know how I am, you know, with my words and my mouth, just spewing sound out. I'll try my hardest to not spend too much and keep it within the hour. But obviously, it's been 6 minutes on top of the 6 minutes I've nearly already spent after 9, so I do need to really move on. Bitcoin, obviously, 113,837, as it talks about. 0.28% down, 24-hour, 0.38. I don't care about the 1 hour. 7-day, 1.73. Yeah, obviously, we've had a little come up. Obviously, we came to our areas below. I don't know where the low, I actually don't remember what the number of the low was, but obviously, we came down to our price. Obviously, we've come up again. 24-hour, we're kind of hovering. I do think it's not going to be a long-lasting move. So, obviously, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, Ethereum, 4119. Pretty good again, and I was saying this in the intro. Nobody was here. That's fine. It's fine. But nobody was here to listen to me. I'll say it again. What we talked about. You know what? No, I won't do this. No. I will do this when we actually get to the charts, because I spent like 3 minutes talking about what we talked about last stream, just to remind you guys. And there's no point. I'll just do it when we're on the charts. So 4120. Good. Fine. Happy. I'm happy. Apart from Bitcoin going up, because I think one of my high prices were 113. something. I can't remember what it was, but we've gone higher to, and I have seen it on the weekly. We went higher. I should have really looked at it. I didn't look at the weekly last stream. Idiot me. Top down analysis. Threw out the window last stream, but we will look at that. But apart from Bitcoin's extension to the gap we printed through on the weekly, we've done everything I pretty much we've talked about last stream, so we're pretty happy about that. XRP 284, not bad. Sometimes prices don't relate to my head of what we talked about last time, but I think that's relative to what we were talking about. I did look at quickly glance over the charts before I started the stream, and everything was doing pretty well, relative to what we talked about. So absolutely fine there. 207, nearly 208 for Solana, 1.84% down 24 hour, 3.977 days. So you can see Ethereum and Solana especially on the 7 day 1.29, 3.97, a bit further down, not really as much as a recovery, or if we did have a recovery, had that retracement a bit faster than the Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin's still floating a bit, not in the promise that we're going to have a massive pump, but in the promise that we're just doing our thing. Wait a minute, I'm just checking. Mike is talking to me about Square, because unfortunately about Binance, it's not live, so I can say what I want. You can put the code in all you want, but you have to. I can't sign into Binance Square or Binance in general on my on my PC, because it signs you out after like 2 seconds. You've been logged in 2 seconds. Well, you could be a hacker. This is not going on. We're not doing this. We're getting rid of you. And it's like you can't log in unless you're on the phone. You've got like 5-factor authentication. So I can't start the streams. So sometimes you'll just get a black screen for it. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Sui 318. I don't know if I looked at Sui, but I remember I think there was a support point, must have been an order block or something, which we marked out last stream. I think we used it as support. I think, if I remember correctly, we'll get to it. Syrup and Crow. Let's see. 3708. So obviously we're in our area. Finally, we were talking about us retracing, probably lower than, I think we came up to just about the 0.5 mark, filling a gap, and then we dumped again, and we've come past a low. We've done perfect price action on Syrup. I'm kind of closing my eyes to remember what I looked at before I started the stream, so that's pretty good. That's fine. And then we've got Crow to look at, which is 19.33. So we've seen a bit of support at 18 cents. Obviously, the low was about 17.6, 17.5. So we're really close to where I think we're stopping at. So relatively soon, I could expect Crow to see stopping points. Obviously, the first target was 22 cents. The next one's been about 17.6. We had two gaps. I was kind of thinking, okay, we can fill this one, maybe see a tiny bit of support here, maybe see a bit of a recovery. We saw a tiny bit of recovery, hardly used it, continued downwards, obviously hitting 18 cents, having a small retracement now, 19.3. We could maybe see a tiny bit lower, but across the weekly anyway for Crow, it's literally one massive candle upwards and then just candles doing this. So I could probably expect us to continue to fill relative nearing the end. Again, the whole move has basically been filled because we had a massive pump. I don't know if it was an externality. I don't know if it was I don't think it was based realistically on, because there's a lot of things going on with American government and Crow. Obviously, Truth Network, whatever it's called, Truth Social, and Crow, and the Diamond thing. So pretty much, and this is sad to say, pretty much every pump Crow's had in the last few weeks, or however long it's lasted for, hasn't been from its own price action. Hasn't been from actual normal price action. It's just been from people talking about Crow, and that's it really. So it's quite sad to say. So I'm not surprised we're having this deep retracement. This wasn't really a fundamental move for Crow to have an actual move to 37. I was calling for 22 cents when we were at 37, and even Mike was like, no chance. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm tired. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just move on. Oh, goodness me. Okay. Let me check the. Okay, Square has not been put live. I don't think it will get put live. Kishan, obviously, is there. Shouts Kishan. Absolute go, man. Everywhere. You see him. It's like a bit living in a fascist state with Kishan. You just see him there. He's on Square. Oh, okay, he's there. And then you turn around. He's on YouTube. Hello. Okay, he's on YouTube. Just the go, man. The go. Huge long sounds right. Yeah, I mean, I think we're having our slow, steady move down. Obviously, where was our low? I can find out now. 108. Yeah, I think 103. If we hit 103, yeah, you need to long right now. Yeah, obviously, I think with me, because obviously I marked out again. This is why I have it hidden. We were marking out this midpoint, 103.6. I had I had a test chart which had a bunch of lines, and I can't remember where it's gone. I don't know if I deleted it. It was interesting stuff. Oh, it wasn't really interesting. I don't know if it was interesting. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I've got it all in. Here it was. Yeah. Here it is. Okay, so this was. I don't think I've actually shown this on stream. I can't remember why I have all this drawn. I think there were like gaps or something. I think I drew this. It was like some random like evening. I was like, do you know what? Let's just draw a bunch of gaps and see what's what, and let's have a look at some standard deviation. It was like one of those nights, you know, like, oh, let's figure out all these magical things. And one of them was about 104, 103. But obviously, we have the simplest answer is literally going to be we have this. We found top end of support. We're probably going to see the midpoint and then reverse. If we're still on the basis that we're continuing downwards towards this 93k area and hitting our areas, you know, all the way down here, which obviously I wanted to happen. Will it continue to happen? Obviously, is you know, I still think we could do it. But obviously we need the process downwards, and if we continue to do this, there's going to be periods before we hit. It's not going to be a straight line all the way down, obviously, as we can clearly see with us, you know, having a move down, taking the high, moving downwards, having a retracement, obviously slowly moving downwards. I will talk about this in a second. But obviously looking at the idea that there's going to be areas in between us moving down, which I can look at. So obviously one was about 103. Again, like I said, the midpoint of this is about 103.5 as well. Anywhere in this area, in this support, is going to be where we're going to hit. There might be some on the lower time frames I haven't seen yet because I haven't actually looked at lower time frames for this. It's probably this move downwards. There's a little gap here. Obviously, there's 113. Basically, bottom end being 113.4 as well. So basically, we have weekly midpoint of the order block being 113.5, 103.5, I should say, and then we have this daily gap at 103.350 to fill the entire thing, also sitting that midpoint at the gap. So this is probably a good area. Again, 103 to simplify it. Obviously down, I don't know why I have this drawn. I'm not gonna lie. A 4 hour gap, I guess. We've already filled it. I don't even know why I've drawn it. I have no idea why I've drawn this at all. Let's just move on. Let's just go back. I'm scared. Okay, so let's not have all that up because it's a mess. It's a mess. So I should probably talk about what we talked about last stream, and then we can go on to what we were talking about. So we were talking basically all this mess and all these areas were just different. Like obviously all this was basically just different targets aiming up, basically coming from this retracement. Now what I didn't do, which I did draw and went, nah, I'm not going to draw that, was the actual retracement. I thought, no, we're not going to retrace that deep. We're going to just continue downward. And we did, okay, we did. So actually drawing it on the daily and not just doing, because I think I did. Where was it? I don't know if I can delete it. Oh no, this is fine. This was just this one was fine, but looking at the daily, it was not fine because I think the daily it started here or something. It started on this high. I'll probably go back to last stream and find it. I can't remember where exactly the high was, but it was basically this, which obviously doesn't make sense because this is actually where the high is. But whatever. So actually drawing this properly, you can see this, you know, anywhere above this, which is kind of where we tickle into this here. But obviously continuing the whole thing downwards because obviously on the idea that if you actually have, that's the wrong thing. If you have the low to where the low actually got printed, you can see we didn't touch that equilibrium. Obviously, did continue downwards, and again, that is more than fine. I'm sure on the 4 hour, which we did actually look at, this was more than fine, as we had drawn. I don't know where it's gone. We had this drawn, obviously on the 4 hour, more than fine. But actually on the daily, we never hit that. So extending this whole move basically from the high to the low, and then looking at it, none of this sits above that. So shame on me. None of this sits there. But what we were talking about, regardless of what actually did happen or not, was basically all this. You can ignore this. I can probably delete most of this. It was just like temporary, lower time frame price action. You know, looking at the we had a bit of a consolidation here. Then we printed past it, or we came past it, and then we pumped. And then we had a gap here, which we filled on the 30 minute. And then we came back down. Then we had some like support resistance on the 30 minute, and obviously we finally pumped. Then all this you can kind of ignore. I can probably delete it. You know what? I'm just gonna delete it. I can't bother. Because most of this, again, was on the 30 minute, which we were talking about, or we were looking at in a bit more detail on the last stream, but I can't really bother to have it all in the way. So obviously, we were talking about this price action, but in terms of the general move, we were kind of looking at, okay, where in the price action could we see price come to? Now, I think I was talking about little gaps we had on the way upwards, which weren't really that, that strong. Obviously, again, 1 hour resistance on a higher time frame move. Yeah, I mean, pretty foolish. But what I will talk about is actually where we came to. So, what I drew was, okay, we had we had one main one, we had one little one, we didn't have anything here. So we had two main areas, but obviously we can add up to one candle. And again, we do have it on one candle here. This whole range is one candle on the 4 hour. Yeah, I agree with that. But just look at the 4 hour here, just to delineate them with what we had. We had this one here, which we kind of used and then came downwards. And then obviously we had this one up here, looking at the 4 hour in a bit more detail. For obviously what it just looks like from here, it's like, okay, well, why do we use this? Well, it's what we can only really see with this move is coming past, number one, just coming past this high, 113.926. And then it's like, okay, well, we kind of came a bit more up into this area. Why have we done that? To continue closer towards the top end of this. Obviously, we haven't hit the top end of that. If we go to the 4 hour, it zooms in a bit more to see where we actually hit from here. So we can see this gap on the 1 hour anyway, we didn't even touch into. I think on the 4 hour, it also hasn't been touched into. So regardless of it, this is a gap and this was a gap. So we came up into this one as well, and then we start to come downwards. We do have, we do have some expansive move, I should say, on the way upwards to actually get into these areas. There's potential. Again, obviously we have a little one here. Obviously we can have a little reversal thing going on. Obviously on the idea that we could potentially see reversal, especially coming into this 4 hour gap, seeing quite a big expansion away from there on the 1 hour. Consistent, not just one candle, quite a consistent move coming into this area we had here and filling that. And then we can see we start to come upwards a bit. We hit a gap here, came back down into this area and then came upwards. And now we're kind of coming into this area. Again, what makes sense if we were to see reversal from this on the idea that we have a high low and we have these high lows, and then we'll have a massive dump past them with these lows getting printed past, and we're going to eventually see a retracement upwards. We're not going to see it want to stop at 113.6. We're going to see it a bit higher, up towards maybe 114 again. But this is kind of just not arbitrary, but this is kind of just like, peanuts really to the actual move I could expect to see, or I could reason with, if you know what I mean. I could reason with it. It makes sense. And this was what I wanted to highlight here, which I'm actually going to highlight on a different chart because it's very messy. I don't want to highlight on this chart. I want to highlight on this chart. There we go. So it was basically looking at the idea that we had a print through, obviously looking at printing through this low here. I should probably look at the chat just to see Tito message. How long have you leverage? I love to play. Kishan knows what he's doing. Okay, we don't want to mess with Kishan. Tito, hello to you. Good evening to you. Obviously now talking about the idea of the weekly gap which we have filled, which drew us up to here. Anyway, biggest question: why did we buy it, syrup? Well, I was saying when we were at 50, I think we can come to 37.8. And we finally came to 37, whatever it was, 38.4, I think it was. I can't remember what it was. So we finally hit this area. I do think, relative to the price action, again, it's not like we came from 40 and now we're doing the all-time low of syrup. We've come from quite a low price, ran up all the way. I think the high being around 60 cent, or whatever it was, or 60. I can't remember whatever price it was. You know what? No, I will talk about it when we get there. So this was kind of what I wanted to draw out to kind of signify. Again, yes, we can use the smaller time frames to try and find different areas within older price action to find, where's the where is this going to be? Okay, well, we have this here, we have these highs, maybe whatever. It's just, again, like I said, peanuts. It's like it's apples and oranges, whatever. It's here. This was where it was realistically. Now with this, obviously, we could argue the fact that we had this candle here. Now, I don't know if on the daily. I don't think so. Kind of on the daily, obviously, but we can't really see that. But we know if we mark out the daily, we know there's a gap there. So what I want to do with this is go back to the 4 hour here, and we know below this line, and even obviously in this tiny gap here, on the daily we have a gap. So we know these down close candles, and then within these, the next consecutive of the two green are these. So we know this candle is actually one which has been printed through. So on the idea that we have a support point here. So now I'm drawing this on a new chart here so we can actually see it a bit closer. And obviously what we can see from this is we can see we retraced into it, came upwards, retraced downwards one more time, obviously coming past these highs. So we kind of came upwards, had this arc of these here, or highs I should say, and then we produced these equal lows using support on this area here, and then pumped one more time, taking these highs, and then coming back to these equal lows one more time, pumping upwards, and obviously we took these highs, retraced again, again. We came quite deep. Obviously, actually came quite deep. Firstly, retracing this gap, came upwards again, came past the highs, retraced. We didn't have anything in this gap. We used it. The lowest point really from here is either going to be this propulsion block here or the main order block. So obviously you can see from this, we came back into this order block and then pumped upwards one more time, finally taking more. Or taking this high over here. We probably had the gap here on the daily or something along those lines. Or we took the main high, I think, was what we marked. I remember marking this actually for the main high. Anyway, doesn't matter. So obviously from there, we did use propulsion block one more time, but bearing in mind, we've just come past a long-term high. So we're not looking to use this as a major support point to go up one more time, really. But anyway, really marking this out anyway. So what do we have? We have an order block, or an hour breaker block to be fair, and we have this overlapping onto a fair value gap, or a gap, or an imbalance, or whatever. Okay, leave me alone. And then okay, cool. So we have that, and importantly with this gap especially as well, is we have this move upwards, and then we have this this move taking that daily high, obviously coming up into, obviously we can see the high over here as well, and coming upwards. We actually had this this last gap, but obviously we used that, so we don't want to use it again. But just in general, really looking at that main high was what we looked at. I remember looking at this back when it occurred as well. So looking at that, taking that, we now know, okay, we have grounds to reverse. We have a massive expansion, kind of similar to what we have right now on the 4 hour for Bitcoin, where we've come into this weekly gap. We've come into an area on the high time frame which we could expect to see resistance at. As soon as we come past this high, we have this expansion. This is very similar to what we see on the 4 hour right now, down, maybe not the 4 hour for Bitcoin, maybe the 1 hour. Yeah, this move, you know what I mean? So in terms of having obviously it will have stronger. It have stronger chance of continuing to play out on obviously the on the 4 hour, but it still matches on the 1 hour. Where have I gone? Where am I? Here we go. That's not what I wanted to do. Let's go to 1 hour so we can see a bit more detail. This is what I'm trying to do. Okay, cool. So then we can see with this process we actually are using these candles, so we know. Similar to how we had with CRO last stream, where we know is that, okay, cool, we have these move downwards, and we have move down, then we have this candle and then pump past, and then we have this candle and then into this gap here, and then we dump. So obviously this is going to be a propulsion block, order block slashed thing. If we draw this across, we can see we have the, let me draw it from the top actually. So we can see we use it again. So we have resistance on the 1 hour, so it makes sense. So in the idea of a reversal, it matches up. This is fine. So just kind of using that as on the 1 hour as an example where we could potentially see resistance. Because obviously you can see it just on the 4 hours. Oh, well, we have a gap here. Why don't we retrace to these areas? Well, we have stuff on the 1 hour. I don't want to do that. So obviously we had resistance regardless of wherever exactly pinpoint was. So we know we have this high. So we have that lower high. So we have this move down. Fine. Lower high. So these are the old lows. Or now in this case was the old low. So we didn't print past this yet in this move. Fine. This is now the old low. We come upwards, absolutely pathetic, and that sounded really bad. I don't know why. Just whatever move, no one cares. Lower high, whatever. And then we retrace, and then obviously we obviously pump down. But importantly, this candle, we have this true print. So not only, and I know I've just spent 5 minutes building up to this one thing I'm about to say, which is us printing past this old low to actually start in a downtrend. Because technically, obviously, it's like, okay, well, we have a high, we've printed past this high, we've come down, we haven't printed past a low, so technically we have a chance. But obviously, this is very expansionary. We've come past a old high, quite a strong old high. Obviously, if you consider it, we have this massive pump. Obviously, this is when we came to the support point back here. Where was it again? I think it was here, right? Somewhere here. We had a support over here. We came up for the midpoint. We came down. We pumped one more time because we found the support. Or we used it as support. We came deep into it and then took it with this low. Had a massive pump, and then we just stopped. We took this high, stopped from this massive move, stopped, and then had a absolutely gargantuan move down. So clearly, very, very important high. And obviously we can tell it's an important high because we can see it very clearly on the daily. Obviously this is a longer term high here. So we have reason to think this is actually a valid move, because you can have these big moves and it might not necessarily be a reversal. Obviously in this case, reversal from going upwards. But you know, for example, this, maybe you might see this and go, well, this is very concerning, or these two candles, this is very concerning. But we don't necessarily, it's not necessarily a reversal point, because again, we haven't really gone anywhere from this. Well, actually, no, you know what, I say that, but technically we have this massive down move, and then we've actually had this reversal. So, but you know, in terms of it being a negative reversal is what I'm saying. But obviously in this case, we know it's true. So after all that talk, which doesn't matter because you guys don't care. It's this old low. And we print through it. So this is actually starting us in this downtrend. So this is going to be a very important candle. Not only do we have this, so I'm just kind of building the idea that we have a strong reason to think that this candle is a strong candle. So we have the weekly gap, which stops at 114.180. We have this order block here, which obviously we've used previously. So we know this is an order block. We now have it as a breaker block. We reverse for it. So we now know it's a breaker block. So we have obviously midpoints about here. You can probably aim for somewhere in this area, but obviously we want to aim towards that gap. So somewhere in this range would have been, you know, a good Venn diagram. Not unison. Not unison. It's not unison. It's not unison. What's the word? I've got a word. It begins with U. Union. I think union is the word. I don't know. A good union where it's like an and. It's like, okay, well, we don't care about what's below this, because this is what's important. So we don't care about this. We can care about this. We don't necessarily want to care about the high, realistically. So we don't really want to care about this. So this is the and, where this and this coincide, is what I'm talking about. Whatever. Regardless, I spent a long time talking, but we hit there. So that's cool. That's great. So that's kind of why I think this was the stopping area. Obviously, we had the actual high from the actual low. Because obviously, again, looking at this low, nothing. Looking at this low, nothing. Looking at this low, finally something. With this, come up to here. This. There you go. That is what I'm talking about here. So really nice. There, really great. Obviously, this being the weekly gap, breaker block, 4-hour gap, actual equilibrium from the daily retracement, not the 1 hour, farty little 1 hour retracement, the actual daily retracement, which allows us to see it where we don't have a retracement in each one of these lows with the green candle, no retracement to equilibrium. Low here, wherever it is exactly, green candle, no retracement. Finally, actually having this retracement. So that is my faux pas. But obviously, that's why I think. So in terms of like, is me being wrong meaning that we're reversing, or is me being wrong the fact that I didn't look at the weekly and the daily retracement? Is it a supreme incorrectness, or is it just a faux pas? Like I said, I don't think it's a supreme correctness. I'm not trying to sound like I'm saving my skin here. I don't think it's supreme correctness, because there's validity for the fact that we came higher and it still be a lower high in this trend downwards. The reason I believe it's a faux pas is because of the fact that I was more focused on looking at, obviously we had the 1 hour as the main focus, obviously even the 30 minutes as the main focus, 30 minute, looking at obviously this, at what we had over here. Where was the expansion? I think it was like this little move. It was whatever. It doesn't matter. And then obviously drawing like, oh well, this is the high and this is the low. So clearly, you know, this is where we're going to find resistance. And you know, in the areas I did talk about, we did finally find highs in that case. Because obviously, when you have that, especially on this time frame, 1 hour technically is a reversal. When you start to have that reversal, and you obviously have started printing past your highs here. Obviously, this being a major high. Once you've printed past it, you're then okay. Well, we have these areas. Obviously, this was the main one I was talking about with this high. We then came past it and then retraced. Obviously, we had this massive just expansion. Didn't even allow us to get anywhere down here. Next one being gaps, I believe it was. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I'm talking for no reason. So yeah, in terms of actual price of what we can do, and I will move on soon to actual normal, or not a normal, but other tokens: Ethereum, Solana, Syrup, Sui, CRO, XRP. So we do have this in theory, on the proviso The provisor. I think I say provisor. It's provisor. I don't know what language is. Provisor. It might be French. I don't know. Provisor. I don't know. Anyway, this retracement, equal lows, is obviously what is actually the true focus. More importantly, obviously, would be, you know, as focusing as hard as you can on whatever higher time frames you can focus on. Obviously, we've talked about these lows. Obviously, this technically coming past it by a tiny bit. Main low here, obviously 107. So, you know, we've had the print past the low. Okay, cool. We've printed past that. We found the support. Okay, great. We have the retracement, lower high. Great. And now we're gonna, in theory, be on the way down to come past these lows, do the low, and then come upwards. So, in the idea that, okay, well, we have this, and the same thing we had with Ethereum as well, where we're obviously on the way down anyway. We hit the high of the order block, we hit the midpoint of the breaker block, we reversed the order block, we reversed the order block, we used it as a breaker block, we came down, we came back to the midpoint, breaker block, we're probably going to come down again, use the low of the breaker block, continue downwards. So that is what we're doing. So we can use this, I would use the same ideology where, okay, well, where's the important parts? Where's the important parts I would focus on? Well, it's going to be the top end. It's then going to be the midpoint, which is about that 103 area. Obviously, we have the weekly support we have here. We have that gap which we saw, which is also 103.3. So we have reason to stop at that area. So I would probably focus on that. So not only are we printing past this intermediary low, printing past these relatively equal lows, mainly just being this low, which allows us to continue this move we've been having on the way downwards, finding a low probably around that area, I would suspect. So seeing that, let's see how it goes. Obviously, well, you know, we've had the reversal. We had a really good reversal candle here with this massive move, taking the high. Obviously, we filled this gap here, taking this high, failing to print, and then reversing here. So obviously the idea of us being, okay, well, we've actually failed to I'm not saying we needed to get past this high, but technically we would have to get past this high. But clearly, you know, the disparity is pretty large here. Clearly doing a very extreme lower high here. The idea is we should be targeting us moving downwards. If we're on the idea that we have this high to the low, wick past, fail to print, important part there. Massive dump, printing past that low, lower high here. And now we were on the way down, having this slight retracement for this intermediary move. As soon as we did that high and we start to come downwards, it's these lows we want to look at. I don't care what happens here on a weekly profile, if you will, or it's really just focusing on the candles of the weekly. Obviously on the lower time frames, on a stream by stream basis, which spans maybe 2 days, let's say, we're going to obviously want to focus on lower time frames. But if we're looking at the wider weekly here, it's going to be. It's not going to have as much effect just based on the weekly. Obviously, this normal reversal here. And obviously, remembering we talked about the idea of this being a breaker block as well, where we had the high and the low here. Obviously, mainly being this candle here, where... Because the last down close before this move down, where we take the high and we take that low, and then we use it as resistance. And I had this drawn in a very ugly blue, very horribly ugly blue on my chart. But this is what it is, and this is why I'm on a new chart, because it's very messy. And I will delete all this, and I'm going to promise myself I'm going to delete all this because it's messy, and I'll just redraw it next stream because I just need to stick to that. But this is obviously, if you ever look at my chart, going, what's this absolutely horrible blue he's got? He goes to the 1 hour and he zooms in on what we've got going on, and everything's blue. Everything is blue. It's horrible. It's because of that. It's because we have this weekly breaker block here, which obviously you can see we really stop ended at that midpoint there really nicely at 115A. Obviously we came up to 117, and this is the difference between the actual print at 115.3 and the actual wick high at nearly about 117,900 is actually a very, very big price disparity. But obviously for the weekly basis, it's just a little wick. Obviously, these wicks are a lot larger, but this is the weekly basis. So relative to the weekly, this is obviously going to be not normal printing. But obviously, if you go to the 50-minute, the weekly is going to have so much more of a drasticality to it. But anyway, this makes sense. Obviously, on the idea that we're coming downwards, obviously we probably will see the low of this as resistance as well. I would expect, you know, somewhere in this first end of it. There's probably quadrants as well, so something like 75% of it, the 25% or whichever, 25. 75. But regardless, just focusing on that, midpoint is going to be important. Probably continue to reverse. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 111,908 as resistance as well, because as we continue to use this as resistance on the way downwards. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to delete this again, like I promised. I'm not a bad person. I'm going to have one thing. I'm gonna keep. I'm gonna keep this line. I'm gonna keep this. This is good. This is fine. This makes sense. And you know what I'll do? I'll make a line. I'll do that. There you go. That's all I'll do. So yeah, that's Bitcoin. I need to move on. 23. So yeah, also I should probably give this low 186. But in terms of the wider trend, obviously, you know, we do need to be careful of timeframes here. But as you know, ceteris paribus, as we are continuing this, we want to be targeting the next low from this move downwards, which will be these lows. And because obviously I talked about this last stream as well, the balance between what price action you use relative to what you're doing. So if you're reversing, you can use the previous price action to orchestrate an idea on where you would expect the new, in this case, the new lows to be. So honestly, on the idea is we have two things we want to target. We have things we have criteria we want to watch for. So the first one's going to be, obviously, we want to take this low, and we don't want to like fail to swing past it, start to reverse lower time frame, start to reverse on the weekly. You know, print past this high. If we print past this high, watch for a retracement, aim for this high. That would be a reversal idea. But obviously in this case, in terms of following the trend, again, as soon as you print past here, again, this is the same thing I just mentioned up here. We printed past here, we want to find where we stop at, obviously using previous price action. And then you want to look for, okay, we're probably going to see a retracement from the low. We're going to find, okay, let's say just looking at the weekly, just at the top end of price action, looking at the weekly. We want to enter somewhere in this area. Obviously, this is when you go to lower time frames, find the pinpoint. Obviously, in this case, we work past that high. Probably, I think it was actually here as well. So there's different areas. But generally, weekly, somewhere in this gap, obviously, is a very wide range. And then looking to go for the low and shorting to the low. From the idea that you've just printed past this low, seen a lower high, or waiting to see the response from this area, seeing this reversal, especially on the weekly here, and then watching it come down. Obviously would be the idea. But obviously from here, it's like, okay, we're aiming for the low, but then we use old price action. Same thing we did with this move. We want to use, obviously in this move, old price action to find where we're going to see the new low at. So in this case, it was, okay, well, this is an order block here. This one, obviously, this candle comes upwards. This candle comes upwards. This is the main candle coming past this low. This is the weekly candle. We're going to use this candle as our support point. So obviously, in this case, this is our support point. So as soon as we come towards 108.9, obviously this being the support. Obviously, in this case, it did come 107.2. So obviously, the weekly basis, you know, it was a wider spread. Obviously, beyond weekly candles here. So as soon as we come to this area, we know we've come past this low. We've printed past it in this candle, or we're continuing to come past it. Probably on the daily printing past it. We want to aim for this area, and then obviously from there it would be the moves. And using the same idea, we have the midpoint wherever it is exactly. So my opinion is going to be, we're just moving like this like how many textbooks, obviously not textbooks because we don't print out, you know, things, but if you look online, oh yeah, chart patterns, trading chart patterns, this is the first week you've ever started trading, how to trade, okay, what's the chart pattern, chart patterns, okay, and then I feel like in the first 20 minutes of trying to learn how to trade, you actually learn something good, and then the next days and days you spend, it's just waffle, which could work, not denying, but it's waffle. So like immediately knowing, oh, we have bull trends and bear trends. Okay, so we have these moves upwards which take highs in these. Obviously, it doesn't really go into that much detail. You look at the trend, you literally, let's say, learn how to yeah, trade. Okay. And then it's like, okay, come on, let's go. Okay, here we go. We've got something here. What's this? What's this trading thing? Okay, EMAs. Great. Okay, I need something a bit easier. This is horrible. I'm trying. What's the word? I'm wasting time. I'm really wasting time, mate. I need to stop doing this, but I want to show as an example. I always mess that word up. Yeah, kind of like this. This isn't. There's got. Okay, maybe not that fast. Obviously, I just spent 45 seconds doing that. But the idea is you immediately go in, you might find some guy who's like got this like really slick back hair and he's like trying to look as professional as possible, even though you might look for like 15, and like, okay guys, this is how you trade, and then it gives you like, oh, okay, so we have a bear trend and a bull trend, okay great, so we can go up, so you know we do higher highs and lower, oh, so okay, higher highs and lower highs, great, and then that's and then this is it, higher highs, higher lows, okay great, and then you have lower highs and lower lows, okay great, and then it's static, and then that's it, and then you're gone. And then they're pyramid scheming, they're funneling you down this strategy which might work, or it works in their screenshots. Man, their screenshots work really well, but you try it out, it doesn't work, and obviously people leave, whatever. But that first apex of trying to find out what's going on in trading is, you know what, that'll stick with you. High highs, higher lows, lower highs, lower lows, fine. And this is the idea. Doing this shouldn't be foreign to people, because this is what people do, you know. It's like this is just trying to, and this might be crazy, what I'm doing here it might generally be crazy, this might be like a mental illness, and that, you know, fine, but it's just trying to find a reason. It's just trying to find a reason as to or a method of explaining the process of why this happens, if you will, I guess. But this looking at this shouldn't, like, you could look at a screenshot on Twitter and go, yeah, this guy's new. This guy, just look at him, he's trying to do low highs, low lows, he's doing a bull trend, yeah. Bear trend, this guy clearly has no idea what he's doing. But, you know, it's applicable. I need to stop talking. I need to move on quickly, because I've got 17 minutes. Okay, Ethereum. I'm going to do both charts works. Obviously, we still have that resistance here. We still have that resistance, so I can use this chart. But I'm going to move on to the other one because I want to do the cleaner one. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so this is the main thing. Obviously, we had the so we had this high to the low, and then we had the retracement up above equilibrium. So this was now an actual appropriate high, and then we have the high here to the extreme low. So this is where equilibrium is. Importantly, this green line is the midpoint of this big old resistance we had, and this is what I was really emphasizing on last stream was, I think at 4211, this area here, we're going to see pretty big resistance, or this general area, because again, not only is this the bottom end of this. Technically it is an order block or it's a propulsion block, but it's an order block from this order block, which we've reversed both of them, by the way. Obviously you can see clear print through this one. Obviously we did use it here, and obviously clear print through this one. So now are both breaker blocks, which I have obviously highlighted there. So we knew this is a stack of both resistances in one. So we knew this was kind of going to be the main resistance area. And what we have here, we have some highs, we have the gap here. So we have, and this is actually something I need to learn. Can gaps be reutilized multiple times? This is something I need to learn. Anyway, we have all these highs, resistance, couldn't get above. And obviously this was the important thing with this move, where we couldn't even get above the equilibrium, and this made sense because we have had massively higher time frame resistance here, but had some highs here, whatever, had these highs. That could be a reasonable argument for a stopping point. Obviously we had the gap here, we came a bit more into it, that's a good point, but I think my main reason for this is definitely going to be this main the immediate area of the midpoint of this resistance of this breaker block and the start of this breaker block, for sure. And knowing the fact that we've used both really nicely, we printed this one, we traced the midpoint, and then pumped. So this is a perfect propulsion block. We then used this propulsion block, and yes, we did use the top end of this, and we did wick to the midpoint. We know both of these have been used as good support. So these will be, so if you have a good order block, you will have a good breaker block if it gets reversed. This is how it works, in theory anyway, obviously not financial advice. But the idea is, if you have a good order block, you're going to have a good breaker block. So obviously the idea was there, and we should see it working, which obviously we do. We can see we just about came upwards, and then obviously on the 1 hour, obviously going to the 4 hour here to make it a bit closer. It was, we have really decent structure here, to be fair. Obviously, we had the order block here, which we talked about on the stream. We had this move down. We came to liquidity. Whatever, we had a gap here or something, I can't remember what it was. We found somewhere to stop at, basically. Found somewhere to stop at. We had a high, failed to swing past this low, printing above the high. Great. reversal. And in this reversal, obviously coming from a point of a support point, we produce these two candles which then pump upwards. This is a support point. Great, order block. And then we used it. This is great. This is brilliant. Life is brilliant. And then obviously we finally form this as a main low, especially if we look at the idea that we want a high to a low. We didn't get past that equilibrium there. We tickled our little toes past this low, taking not only this low, but all these other lows which we formed, all these lows here we took. In theory, I guess, whatever. So obviously we did that and then we pumped. Great. We had a gap here. Filling the rest of this, probably going to the daily here to, maybe not daily, 8 hour, I guess. Maybe not 4 hour, whatever. We had obviously this gap, which obviously we filled, and then we can retrace. We had a gap here. We've come to fill a tiny bit here. We came upwards. We're then now finally at resistance and at equilibrium. Obviously coming past highs, coming past here. Finally found a reason to stop in our uptrend. And now, guess what we're doing? We're starting to come down. Obviously, we want to target this low. At least, if we look at the 1 hour, a bit more detail, we can see normal move upwards, massive expansion, boom, gap, massive expansion, boom, gap, retrace and massive expansion. Now we've hit resistance. Now we're starting to come downwards. We now have a low. We now have another low. We kind of have these vertical equal lows. We've kind of dumped past them. More importantly, we've printed past these lows here. Obviously, we're going to want to aim for this. We are coming up quite strong here. But again, on the idea that we haven't really had a proper retracement in any of these moves, we're going to want to draw this entire thing here. Now, from this, what I will say is the 1 hour doesn't really have major thing. We do have some of these highs here, which I believe does sit at an appropriate area to focus on. So I could do that, but importantly, what I will say is we're going to have inverted gaps. So we had this inverted gap here. We can see we've already used that one. We're going to have an inverted gap here. Have we used this already? You can see we inverted the gap. We then used it. So we do have an inverted gap. So we've already used this inverted gap here. Well, technically as well, we could maybe have an argument of this, but we've kind of already used this. You haven't really, it's not like we've expanded, but technically we've used it, came down, reversed it, and now we're filling it, but this isn't below equilibrium. So I do want price to go up one more time. We do have these highs which have come from this reverse gap, so we could maybe see some resistance there. So I would, I mean, again, in the process of a reversal, if we do, obviously not financial advice, I would expect price to, obviously, uptrend, expanding down pretty much, printing past lows. We're going to see that lower high at some point, and then we're going to continue back downwards. So somewhere in this range, I would expect somewhere to see a lower high. Somewhere, in this move, we're going to see that. Whether this be at these, relative equal highs here, coming from this inverted gap, we could see something there. What we could actually also see in this is, we have an order block here. We have this old gap. We came upwards in this move, and then we've printed past it in this move. So we could maybe see resistance there, which is also just about above here. So we could see resistance there, to be fair. On the 30-minute, it's actually a bit deeper. It's actually not deeper. I lie. 4 hour, do we have anything? We do have a gap here, actually, a bit higher from what we've printed, which is 4186, which is towards there. So this is also sitting in that gap. So I reckon I would probably use this as an anchor, this order block, somewhere in here, taking, at least coming above these highs. Obviously, we're already pretty much there anyway. At least taking these highs, coming into this order block of resistance. Obviously, we have some inverted gaps we've kind of already used. 4 hour, though, is probably what I would be focusing on, because we do technically have a little gap here above equilibrium, which we could maybe want to target. And obviously, from there, we find a resistance in this area. And obviously, in this case, the 4 hour, that would be a good reversal idea. If we've come from resistance, had a decent expansion downwards. Technically, I haven't printed past this low, I will admit, but we could maybe see resistance in this gap here before we continue back downwards. Obviously, we will see how it goes, but yeah. In terms of what our price action has done so far for Ethereum, based on what we talked about last stream, we're doing pretty well. And obviously from there, we want to look at the high to the low. Obviously we had this high, low, high, massive pumps, massive dumps. So this is now the low. It's not obviously what we had with Bitcoin. This is actually a valid high here, as we can see, well above that equilibrium point there. So this high to this low, at least coming above that equilibrium point. This could be a good area. Obviously, if we're not stopping here, this whole gap, which also not only have we entered into this resistance, we can see we have technically entered into this gap as well. So we have this double resistance. We've entered into this gap. We could go deeper, that is fair, but again, as soon as we're above 0.5, we want to be watching to see if we reverse. And obviously on the lower time frames, we do seem like we could potentially reverse, so we could maybe obviously see that potential happening. Obviously we'll see how we print, but yeah, I mean, we have actually come above equilibrium here, into this gap again, even though we've already used it. I mean, I don't know if you can reuse gaps. That is actually something I need to actually look at. I mean, I suppose there might be a 5-minute order block, but nah. So we might see resistance here. Either way, we're going to see that resistance in this, at least in this gap area, especially since this candle was the one printing past this major low here, obviously printing past this low as well. So this is a major candle for sure. This obviously was the expansionary candles downwards, which we had during the Monday time and the Thursday time as well. So again, this whole move since Monday is just going to be chocked with sells, if you will. And obviously from there, if we continue to do this, which I would expect us to do in this move downwards, we could obviously want to see us come past this low. So yeah, obviously we'll see how it goes. But this is again, this has been a great reversal for this move. You know, we do want to see that retracement. If we do want to see it from this whole area, which I don't think we should do, we technically have that move down, move high, move down again. So technically it should start from here. But obviously if we were to do this, it does come a bit higher, to a bit more up to this gap, 4,300. So we'll see how that goes. But again, obviously, by the time we'll do the next stream, which is obviously going to be it's Tuesday today. I don't think we're doing anything tomorrow. Doing something Thursday, so you know, we'll at least be streaming Thursday. By the time this happens, we might not be finished with this, so we'll see how it goes. The question: are we reversing right now? We'll see how it goes. Obviously, we have potential for it, especially on the 1 hour. I mean, there's been periods before where we've kind of failed to print, but on the idea that we've had a high, a low, a high, a high into major resistance at equilibrium. Kind of these highs here, wicking past it here, pretty expansionary, small retracement for another lower high, massive dump downwards. Now we're kind of coming upwards. We've come back into this gap area. All I can consider right now is we're back above 0.5. We could want to retrace to see us come down a bit more. But obviously, you know, this candle could be quite expansionary. We could see some support in this candle. So see how it goes. Let's just move on to Solana. So Solana, how are we doing? Again, very ugly blue mess here. I think this is all support. You know what? I'm going to delete it because it's kind of in the way and I don't like it. So what we were talking about us coming back upwards. We were coming here again, 15-minute. We're kind of talking about this, you know, these resistance areas. Here we have this green area. I believe was it an old area on the 4 hour maybe? Oh, I think I said this last stream. I don't remember why I drew it or something. Yeah, I still don't know why I drew it, to be fair. It clearly has been used. It has this low. It clearly is something of interest. I just don't know why I've got it drawn. I don't know. I don't know why I have this drawn. I clearly had a reason, you know, something which was valid, I guess. But I don't know why I have that drawn. The mystery resistance point. Let's just use it. I don't care. Let's just use it. Anyway, so we've come upwards. Obviously, we found the low here. Obviously, in this move, we had that high. So again, this makes sense. So coming from the recent high, which actually is valid, coming high to the low, massive expansion downwards. We have some gaps up here. We had previous resistances up here. I believe this must have been an order block on the 1 hour or something along those lines. This is why I label stuff. Yes, we have this down move for the one candle upwards, and then retracement for a propulsion block. Came upwards. Obviously, came back up into these highs. We had a resistance here as well, came into it. We talked about this on the stream. Came down, reversed it, used resistance, or main reversal here, used resistance one more time, and then came downwards. So this is resistance. We can see we've had that slow truck upwards, quite expansionary up here as well. Came down for a lower, a higher low, just normally uptrending here on the 1 hour anyway, into this area of resistance. Obviously this green magical resistance area, I don't know what it is. Anyway, targeting above that 0.5 area here. And you can see a nice reversal, you know, normal move upwards, come upwards, print through, slow retrace. Haven't had a big retrace, and this is important as well. We have the high to the low here. We failed to print past that equilibrium. Put it down one more time. We're going to want to target that equilibrium. Maybe this high could be interesting, but we don't really have anything there. We have a massive inverse gap here, which we have technically used, I believe anyway. We might have used it anyway. I actually don't know. There we go. So you can see we kind of formed it. We printed through it, we did retrace and then come downwards again, but this is still going to be an interesting area, I think. Anyway. Also, we could potentially see a bit of a resistance here. We have this candle upwards, which comes past these highs, and then we dump and we print past it there. in this candle. We don't see it as resistance though, and then we kind of come down. As you can see, if we look at that there, we can see we kind of come down and then start to use a resistance. So we do potentially have something in this candle. So looking at that midpoint 210 as well. So somewhere in that 210, 211 area, maybe coming up into this area, especially this high, we could potentially see something for Solana. So and again, I keep on mistakenly not doing top down. I keep on looking at the 1 hour before the 4 hour, because we do have a 4 hour gap here at 211.7, 212. So we could come up into that area for a high. It looks even nicer on the 4 hour, to be fair. We can see we have the high to the low, high. We actually haven't printed past that low, so technically haven't had that main reversal yet. We have come past it. We have wick past it. So technically a fail to print past it. So come up, come down, come up, come down, potentially for a lower high, and then come down again. So obviously we could potentially see a lower high here, and then for a reversal for Solana to come back down again. So yeah, that's kind of it. I only have like 5 minutes here, so I do need to go on to newer coins, newer pastures, greener pastures. So we have SERP here. So with SERP, what we've kind of been talking about is the main thing being us coming past 38.5 here. Obviously, very, very good. I'm glad we've come past that. I'm just opening up some on here. I think Binance Square's working, but I don't know if my stream's going through. I think it is. Okay, it is. Brilliant. Anyway, as I was saying, let me pause this. So obviously the main target for SERP has been, for the longest time, the 38.47. Obviously coming past this as a main area for printing past this low. Go back to the 4 hour here. So what we were talking about with this was obviously we had the high to the low here coming to this. Actually, the main thing being this high to this low. Obviously, we've failed that there. But obviously, I did draw it from here to here and the retracement. Regardless, we printed past this low. So this is the range here, printing past this low. Now with this, I did draw this inverted gap. We did have this gap here. Obviously, the first starting point, as soon as you come above that 0.5, is going to be this area. So the main one I was talking about, we had this order block here. We had this gap, midpoint of the order block being with it. The starting point 3953 being the order block here as well. So this is now a breaker block and a gap. So again, a good potential for a resistance. Obviously, I did talk about, we could see as high as 40.70, but I remember my main the first price I was talking about in SERP last stream was going to be this area where we had this this point here, and then we came upwards and then reverse it, and then we did use it as resistance in this candle here, obviously forming this gap just about above 0.5 here. So you can see we retraced, we did fill that gap here, we did find resistance in this breaker block. I don't know where the midpoint is exactly. I do want to see where it is and where it sits. You can see we've kind of just shy, maybe like 0.0005 pennies off. So finding near enough that midpoint of the resistance for SERP. Obviously, I could bait and do this and go, oh, look, guys, we hit the midpoint. Look, see? We hit that midpoint, you can clearly see. Anyway, we hit into that order block. We found a resistance. Probably go to the 4 hour and see it a bit closer or something along those means. Maybe looking at the individual candle here and seeing it a bit higher, but whatever. Peanuts, apples and oranges, all these phrases in between. So we came up 0.5. Again, that's the criteria to watch for. And again, obviously we had reason to stop. We started to come downwards and see us actually start to print through high, low, high, low, high, and obviously we eventually printed through this low here and just basically continue downwards. So from there, the main thing to focus for is going to be, there it is going to be, actually we could extend this a bit lower because obviously we did that low there, is going to be, as soon as you come up to that 0.5, is to start to come downwards again. So anyway, regardless, the target is going to be 3682. You want to print through it, obviously, but you can see we've kind of we've just wicked through it and then had a bit of retracement here. We do have an order block on the 1 hour here, actually. We have this move upwards into, obviously, this gap here, obviously taking this high, but filling the gap here and then dumping. So we do have a bit of resistance here. But if we actually watch the move down, let's go to the 4 hour here. I want to see us have this move. So we have the high, low, obviously failing to print past this high here, wicking past it, though, with this move, and then a massive expansion. So clearly, from the high to the low, this is what it's going to be. So we do want to come a bit higher, in theory, for SERP. We do want to come a bit higher. We haven't had that print past this low. I would want to see it actually print through this low mainly. So what we could do is maybe focus on the lower time frames for that continuation downwards. But regardless, we have had that print through that low, so we are continuing that downtrend for SERP. So even if we don't have that, even if we haven't had the print for this low, we can still look at the idea that regardless of where this low is, we want to see that retracement. So it's going to be slightly above that midline of the 0.5. It's going to be somewhere in this range. So you can see that we have this initial gap here, which starts at this candle high here. If it goes to 1 hour, we can see it a bit closer. So this is also kind of where this inverted gap sits as well. So we can see we have this inverted gap here. We kind of did use it. We printed through it here, tickled into it, and then came down. So we do have this overlapping 4 hour gap, 1 hour inverted gap. Obviously it's kind of like a balanced price range. We have these multiple ranges in between, but regardless, above 0.5 we do have resistance at 38.49. Again, the thing I was talking about last stream, which I will leave off with SERP before we move on, obviously we did talk about the idea we want to come past this low, is that the idea that, okay, well, we have seen us come past, if we go back to the daily here, I know it's messy, I do apologise, we have seen the idea of us coming past this move here. Obviously this was a very, I think something happened here actually. I think it was some not a news event, but I believe something happened. So I took that high to this low, which obviously worked out fine, whatever. So looking from that high to low on the daily anyway, the low was going to be at 38.47 as we talked about. So the idea would be we from the high to the low, we would come into resistance, and then as soon as we come to resistance, the next target's going to be the low. No, however long it takes, whatever happens. So yes, we did come up one more time. Obviously we didn't, we kind of did failed. He didn't even wick past this high, didn't print past it, we didn't reverse or anything. So we kind of did this move, kind of moved down, kind of came upwards, and then reversed again. So we came up twice this resistance, but the idea again still stands. You have the high to the low, you want to retrace to find a lower high, and then come up to that low. So technically on that idea is you're going to want to see price come past 38.48, see a print, lower low, and then have a retracement for a lower high. So technically it would be us going from the most recent high to the most recent low, just about in this range. So again, equilibrium being about up towards 46. So, and I did say this last stream as well, I would still hold on to the idea that SERP can go upwards again. I know the market's going down. Obviously, we want to see SERP stop somewhere. So obviously we're at the bottom of this order block. Obviously we're getting very close to reversing this. Again, the idea that you can use the lower end of this. Obviously we can print for it, use it as resistance, and continue downwards. Obviously maybe looking at some of these lows down here. We do have this move upwards, move down, pump upwards. So we do have another order block actually, which I'll just draw out quickly just to show it. So as you can see, we have this move up. We used it, came upwards, used it again, and it came upwards. So we do have something down here as well. So we do have more support. So it depends on where we stop at for SERP. I think is kind of the main thing for me is where are we going to stop? On the idea that we have had this high to low, lower high, and we're going to have this lower low, where are we going to stop at? So obviously that could be bottom of this end here at 35.13, but we also want to bear in mind the fact that if we look at the weekly, it's like, okay, we've had this kind of move upwards, we've had this slow move downwards. Now I know this is obviously market the open of SERP, but if we go off the next candle, I know this might be rough, I don't know if this is actually something you're supposed to do. If we go from the low to the high, and we want to look at doing a higher low, obviously on the longer term for SERP. Actually, let me draw it out. We want to see it come, obviously we're in that area now. Equilibrium's at 45.72, so somewhere in these ranges is probably a good area to maybe want to target on anyway. Technically we could think about the idea of a last down close candle before we move upwards again, so technically this being a weekly support point, so technically it being an idea that we use it, support, reverse resistance, come down maybe towards the lower end of it. So I reckon we could see one more longer term low for SERP, and then we might start to see some higher time frame price action take to place and actually start to come upwards for SERP longer term. And I'm pretty confident in SERP anyway. I do think it's a great project fundamentally, and there is a big decoupling between SERP and its token, or Maple Finance I should say, and SERP. So I do think SERP can succeed long term. I just think we need to see that low, and obviously we continue to do it. We're probably, again, as the market continues to go down, because like, yes, okay, syrup, the Monday move anyway, we did see a big move on Monday, and we did see a big move during Thursday, but it wasn't as strong as it was related to the market. So it can move differently, and obviously things can move differently in the market regardless of how everything is doing generally. But if we think most things are going to be coming down for a tiny bit before you go upwards again, why would I try to ignore that idea on syrup when clearly we've printed past this low, and we haven't had a massive reversal yet. We've only just got past this low, and we're continuing downwards. So we probably will see continuous movements downward for syrup to lows, but I do think it could mean a longer term move for syrup. So again, I wouldn't cry just yet. I do think we have potential for syrup, but I'm gonna quickly go over Sui, CRO, XRP as a glance, just to see what we've got going on, and then end the stream because I am a bit over. So the last thing we talked about, just to point it out again, was we have this down close coming past this low. I think we had a low here coming past. So again, high time frame, low swept past. This is going to be a high probability support point, if you will, whatever you want to say. And then obviously we print up in this candle, obviously finding resistance in this gap here, printing above this candle. So then this singular one is going to be the order block. So obviously from there you can see we used it really nicely in this midpoint, obviously, especially kind of came a bit deeper here, probably taking these equal lows and then obviously pumping. But you can see one more time we had obviously we had this breaker block on the 1 hour actually in this here. I should probably draw it a bit better. There we go. Obviously it had this move, taking these lows, gap, came upwards, printed through it, resistance again into this breaker block, continuing downwards towards our longer term support point, obviously, which we had, and then obviously from there pumping again. The idea that we kind of came to this area, taking that low, had this consolidation, had this move upwards, had this slow retracement back downwards, finding a position of printing past these highs, doing a higher low, higher high, in this move. Obviously in this case we can see we did a higher low, a high, and then we've done a lower low here, and now it's retracing. It's kind of all over the place for Sui. But obviously in this case we did have the start of this gap here, which obviously you can see we filled this. Obviously we actually came deeper to the 705 and filled that as well. But this whole move with this candle, actually within this, basically this whole candle was this breaker block here. So looking at this breaker block and these gap areas, you can see we came to that breaker block pretty nicely here, filling to that gap as well. So either starting at this area here or coming to this gap. So we got a good retracement from the high to low for a lower high here, and you can see we printed past this low in this. So technically I'm still going to be negative for Sui, but we did talk about us reversing with this support point, coming up to this gap area with this breaker block, and then going back downwards again. So obviously based on the idea, if we find that lower high above that equilibrium point, we want to aim towards that new low at 3.07. So even though obviously we have had a move down, move upwards, we're kind of coming back to that breaker block to find more resistance, or just find resistance again in general. We also have this gap. We can see we used it, fail swing, print past, and then we've kind of come back up into it, and now we're having this floating candle here. We've only just printed, so we could, in this candle again, even though this candle is going above this, I do think we can print lower than this candle. This might be a negative printing candle potentially, obviously not financial advice. Obviously we did come from this gap, but with this whole previous move, there's not really much support here. In theory, again, we did have this, obviously this old support here, which obviously we came to midpoint, we came to top end of it. But in terms of old candles, all these gaps, we had this gap, we filled it, we had this gap, we filled it, came upwards, obviously came downwards, filled this gap, we had this gap, we've come down, filled it, came back upwards, and obviously finding resistance again. So we've used all this. We do have support down here. Yes, we probably still will see us produce a low, a high, a lower low here, probably a lower high in this area here, and then continue downwards, aiming for that low for Sui. In terms of reversal area, really quickly, again, we do have some old gaps at 293 here, so we could probably want to aim for these areas as well. Quickly jumping to CRO, we do have we had this move down. We haven't got to that low yet. Again, I did draw out this. We have the actual high to the actual low here to the 0.5. So we've had this move down to the move upwards. We did get to that 0.5. Haven't come down to this area here. So we have come back to this resistance we had here, which actually, to be fair, now I say it's a propulsion block, is technically also its own order block from this gap we had here to move downwards. But regardless, it is a resistance here. We come back up into that. So we've had a move, and now we've kind of come upwards. We haven't printed past anything on the 4 hour or anything of concern here. So I'm not really worried or anything about that. And if we go back to the 1 hour anyway, obviously on the 1 hour we have printed past these highs, but I do expect CRO to continue downwards anyway. So that is about basically 18 cent. Again, the longer term thing, we've come into this gap. Again, this is the first, we've entered into this gap, so we're probably seeing some sort of support here. Probably want to continue downwards anyway. I'm very interested to see this weekly order block here, which we have move upwards. We could also consider it a propulsion block. Again, we had this down close, massive move upwards, retrace and move upwards, last down, move upwards. This will be support regardless. But even within this, we have this massive move upwards, retracing back down and a move upwards. This is going to be a support point. And obviously this is now this massive gap which we formed quite a while ago. So I want to see if we retrace a tiny bit more into this. Again, we are in more an invalid area for CRO to retrace. I want to see if we can retrace one more time for CRO, but I do think we're going to be very near the end of this move down for CRO. But obviously we'll see how it goes. XRP, last thing before I end the stream. I will try to go as fast as I possibly can. Obviously we talked about this, obviously breaker block and whatnot, bit of resistance, continuing upwards. Again, want to aim at least past that 0.5 mark. We had this old resistance. This was resistance we used here. So again, apart from there, we did draw out this 4 hour inverted gap here, which then obviously we inverted with this move downwards, and then basically just continued downwards. Realistically, we had this high to this low move through these candles, so these are all going to be kind of a resistance point as well. But regardless, we filled this gap pretty much to a T, which was nice. And you can see even on the 4 hour here, we had this move upwards, low, high. These are the kind of the main lows here at 284. You can see we've had a nice print through them, and we've got a gap here as well. So if we go to the 1 hour to see where the trend started, you can see on the 1 hour anyway, we've come into this gap. We've had that retracement. I want to go to the 4 hour here though. In terms of like main high to the main low, we've kind of tickled on that equilibrium here. And technically this is the high to the low, but regardless, we basically came within that equilibrium. So we maybe kind of come up one more time to 287 to fill the rest of this, but we've already filled it. We've already kind of come to equilibrium here. Actually, let me see it exactly. So we haven't actually come to equilibrium. I lie. We shaved it by a tiny bit. In terms of the 1 hour, we have come quite nicely. But again, we have had quite an expansionary candle. We could have come up one more time. So I do think, especially from the 4 hour, we haven't technically hit that gap yet. So we could see that retracement upwards to fill the rest of this towards maybe 28750-ish. But we also did have this. Actually, no, we don't. I think it's the 1 hour. I was going to see if we had a little order block there, but we had a move upwards, a little gap there, but again, you can see move upwards, massive move downwards, slow move upwards, lower high, haven't really printed much of anything. Probably going to want to continue to have this retracement. So XRP, I think, is continuing downwards. Again, we're going to want to be targeting some moves downwards towards the lows anyway, especially these equal lows. I should probably point out to about 270 equal lows, good target. I do think XRP can continue downwards. That's it. I am finished. I have spent a long time on the stream. So obviously, thank you, all of you, for being here. Obviously, I try my best. I was pretty tired. I thought it was going to slow me down and not speak too much, but you know, it is what it is. So that is what I think. Obviously, we'll see how it goes. A lot of what I talked about on Bitcoin, a lot of stuff on Bitcoin anyway. I can see how it's relatively higher time frame stuff on the weekly and the daily. So we'll see how it goes over a longer period. I will be back on Thursday to give an update on it and see how it goes. And I'll try maybe do some of like CRO, maybe SUI as well, a bit more detail. Maybe CRO as well, because I kind of glanced over some of these. So I'll try and not keep it as long on Bitcoin and whatnot. So we'll see how it goes. Let me look at the chat. I haven't actually looked at the chat. I just keep on talking. Tariq is here. Did not see Tariq. Obviously, I know I'm in the stream, but good evening to you, Tariq. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. So we can expect a good upwards. Yeah, I think relatively soon. Again, it's hard because it's like there's a balance between what we have in theory quite far down for Bitcoin and then what we potentially have for some of these other coins. So I don't want to go against what I would talk about with some higher time frame or some higher, relatively higher coins like Bitcoin or Ethereum. We do have some deep targets pretty much across the board. So for SUI, I mean, I could expect some retracements at least towards the $3 gaps and whatnot. So I do think SUI, at least from what I can gauge anyway, I would still expect SUI to go downwards, but I still want Sui to go upwards. We had such a great start with Sui. We had it was going great, but we failed to get upwards. But obviously, I was very, very positive with Sui. I still think we could aim for those highs. Obviously, see how it goes. But this is obviously some longer term price thoughts. So we'll see how it goes over the next streams and see how price goes. Again, we're getting towards October now, or October, as a lot of people coming. Obviously, Kishan says October coming. We'll see how it goes. Again, this is why I'm very cautious when I say in the intros the idea of time frames. And even though I might say certain things about price action, we still need to be careful based on time frames for things. Obviously, see how it goes. Again, I can't just look at price action and then say, oh well, it says this, but I want to say no, because that's just feelings at that point. But again, there is an air of caution as we get closer to the time people think we go upwards. But obviously, we have times where people think we go up and we don't go upwards. We have times where people think we go upwards and we do go upwards, relative to either external news or just cyclic timing, if you will. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, I'll be back Thursday anyway, so nothing will change in theory. Nothing will change too much by Thursday, so we'll see how it goes. I don't think we're doing anything tomorrow. I don't think we're doing a quiz. I think we're missing one, but we do have obviously some planned during October, the usual. We do have some Halloween ones. Obviously, we've got some, we're trying to buy in advance, some masks and stuff, just to kind of dress up a bit for some of the quizzes, but we might do a Halloween quiz as well, like something related to crypto, obviously we've got a crypto channel, but maybe try to do something related to Halloween as well. So again, we will see how it goes. Obviously, just to preface the outro, no financial advice, I'm not professional, it's my opinion. Again, I'm not a licensed charts person, be careful, things can go wrong, things can go right. It's just about proper risk management. You can have a 20% winning strategy and still be profitable if you know it's 20% winning and you you risk manage accordingly. So again, good luck to you guys. See you guys on Thursday. Thank you all, appreciate you all. See you next time. I have nothing else to say. Bro, you always inspire me. You're a deep ocean of charts. Oh, everyone say moon in market. Appreciate it, Kishan. Obviously, you don't need me to say any more than I already have done. You already know you're the go. Good stream, mate. Thanks. Thank you for joining, KB. Appreciate it. Obviously, we'll see how it goes in the next stream. Tariq, thank you too. Thank you for being here. I'm not going for else to chill. I said I was going to stream Monday. Obviously, I had to stream today because I was going to record something. We have a new series trying to come out called In the Trenches. It's kind of this interview thing. And we're going to record it yesterday, but he's in America and I'm not in America, so time zones are a bit dodgy. It was kind of overlapping on the stream, and then it kind of fell under. So that's why I wasn't able to do it on Monday. I do apologise, but I will still be there Thursday. I will not cancel on Thursday. I will not, I will not list it or anything. I will be there Thursday, same time, same place. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your evening. Great Wednesday. Good luck in the markets. Thank you. Goodbye. bye.